Are you married or in a committed relationship looking for real advice on having love and enriching your relationship? You are in the right place. Welcome to The Couples Expert with Stuart Fensterheim.
Hi there, and welcome to the Couples Expert podcast. This is Stuart Fensterheim, the Couples Expert, and I am so very excited to be coming to you this week in July of all weeks, because there are many holidays in July. We've just recently been through July 4th, Independence Day, and we can be all proud to be part of this country. And if you're listening outside of the United States, I want you to be proud of the country that you live in. But the more important holidays for me are not July 4th and July. There are some really, really fun holidays. And today is July 26th, first of all. And I want to thank and really express a congratulations for the aunts and uncles out there, because you guys have a holiday in July. I didn't even know that today is Uncle and Aunt Day. For me, though, and it really brings me back to my childhood, there's another day in July that to me is quite special, and that is on July 27th. That's tomorrow. It's Bugs Bunny's birthday, and the Bugs Bunny cartoon first debuted in 1940, and I remember every single Saturday morning watching cartoons with my brothers, and Bugs Bunny was our favorite cartoon. And July 27th is Bugs Bunny's birthday. But second to that, for me, because one of my most favorite foods are hot dogs. And I don't know how many of you love hot dogs. But July 27th is also National Chili Dog Day. Now, I'm not really a chili dog person, but any day that we can celebrate a hot dog, I'm there. I love mustard and sauerkraut. And my wife and I sometimes have this big debate, because she's from Chicago, that a hot dog is mustard and sauerkraut. And not everywhere will serve sauerkraut, but we have a debate on which is the better hot dog. The New York style hot dog for me, which is mustard and sauerkraut, or for her, it's the pickles, the hot peppers, and a Chicago hot dog. So do me a favor. Let's do a little contest. Let's do one to see how many people think Chicago hot dogs are best and how many people the New York style mustard and sauerkraut is the best. Put a little comment on my Facebook page, the Couples Expert Facebook page, whether or not you think the New York style of mustard and sauerkraut or the Chicago style with the pickles and all the other stuff that comes on with the Chicago hot dog are the better hot dogs. This week's podcast is on how do we cope with separations due to our work commitments, because sometimes we don't realize how dependent we really are, and that's really the topic for today. Healthy relationships in and itself are interdependent, which means that we come to really depend on each other to give us some of the needs that we need from a relationship. And some of those are individual needs as well, that my partner's feedback to me is going to help me feel good about who I am as an individual. That my role in life, being a husband or being a wife or being whatever role we have, even our work role, my partner has a very big factor in how good I feel about that. Now, that's not necessarily an unhealthy thing. And some people might say, well, that sounds really codependent in a negative, destructive way. Codependency in and itself is not a problem. Codependency, when you have two people in a marriage where both people have a significant relationship that feels emotionally connected, will allow you to feel better about who you are as a person. That my self-esteem has a lot to do with what goes on in my relationship. If my relationship is struggling, I'm not going to feel as good as a person, as a man, as someone in this world, feeling like one of the best things that I have going is that relationship at home. And that when that relationship at home is struggling, I don't feel good. So I look to my partner to help me with some of the feedback that I might need in a feedback loop kind of way. But not only in that, but also in the things that go on in the house. Division of labor. Who does the cooking? Who does the cleaning? I recall when my stepmom passed away, one of the big challenges for my father was learning to cook, because his wife, my stepmom, really was the one that did all the cooking. And when she died, which is a little different of a topic of a conversation than we're having today, but when she passed away, he now had to do certain things that he never, ever did before. And it impacted his living. And as a result of a work separation, sometimes what's going to happen is that division of labor, something that you thought you could always have and depend on your partner for doing, that gets yanked away, but temporarily. But it still might be yanked away over an extended period of time. And I want to just clarify something. We're not talking about things like military families, because that's a whole other topic that we've done before, and I think we may need to do again. But this topic that I'm talking about, and I find this much more with sort of the engineer and architecture and some of the businesses in which you, as part of a business, may be asked to travel to Europe and stay there for a month or two. And when you go, there's going to be very limited contact that you'll be able to have in terms of coming back home and spending a physical time with your family. So now you have an extended separation based on your work, and it's something that you don't really control. You can't turn to your boss and say, no, I'm not going, because that's part of your job. Now, the two of you may have had conversations about this previously, that this is part of what's gone on, or this is part of what's in my professional life will require me to periodically leave, but sometimes it doesn't happen for a very extended period of time. Or the other factor that we could look at, sometimes because of the nature of our world, people lose their job. And the job that they then find requires travel. And how do we really not allow that separation to have a negative impact on our marriage? And that's really what we're talking about. So the division of labor is one of the first things that you'll probably notice is significantly different now, because now you have to do the things that your partner once did. Examples of this may be things such as the cooking. Who cooks? Laundry, yards, the yard in your home, cutting the grass. I know a lot of people who has never ever cut their grass with a lawnmower before, and it freaks them out. And they're now in this position where their partner, typically it's the man, is now traveling, and the yard grass is sky high, and what do we do about it? Do I hire someone? But sometimes financially, that's not even an option. I have to now learn how to do that myself. Now, we could say there's some positives that might come from this, and I would suggest there are. I think sometimes, I used to be a manager of a McDonald's years and years and years ago. And one of the things that we did to make sure that when we hired someone, we cross-trained them. We made it possible for every single person on that shift to do everyone's job. And I think we don't think about that. I think there are a lot of women who say to their husbands, you may not step foot in this kitchen because you always mess it up. I don't recommend that whatsoever. I think cooking could be something that can actually be a romantic experience for a couple, and that the two of you should sometimes cook together, and the man should sometimes take over the kitchen completely so that he learns and understands what goes into cooking a meal. Not only because one day he may have to do it himself, but because sometimes you don't want to cook. And wouldn't it be nice to have a relationship with someone that you can turn to and go, I've just had it up to here with cooking. Could you please make me a meal? And that when you do that, you don't shake in your boots that your whole kitchen will be a disaster. And the only way that happens is if you work together and show each other what goes into the cooking. The same is true with the yard work. There are so many women that have never stepped foot into a guy's garage or understands what they do with the chores around the house or the handyman jobs that they do, or how to change a light bulb in a recessant light, how to even open a ladder, how to change the oil in your cars. If the guy's a handyman and he does those kinds of things, why don't you have him show you how he does it? How to change a tire. If you're broken down, you want to be able to do those things. These are the kinds of things that we end up depending on our partners for, and that when they are needing to move and go to another location because of work, meaning that they now are living away temporarily for a month, it's all on your shoulders. And you have to be able to do that. You have to feel like you're not being abandoned. And one of the biggest ones, I think, are doctor's appointments. So many of you have never even called your doctor before. And I think those are the kinds of things that our partners do for us that we don't even know how to do, such as calling the insurance company and checking out the benefits. These are critical things that, unless you are suited and know how to handle, can have you feeling so overwhelmed, and are the things that you need to be doing together so that your partner feels very capable if that separation occurs. Here's another one, by the way. Driving kids to their activities, or dropping them off at school. I remember this. This was sort of an interesting one for me because my wife used to be the one dropping kids off at the elementary school. And then something happened because she was traveling. This is a true story. And I had to do it. I had to be the one that drops the kids off. And I would get yelled at by the people where I was dropping off. No, you don't come in that way. You come in around the other way. What do you mean you're sitting there looking at your phone? There's a line behind you. You need to keep moving. How to know which group of kids that I should drive up and pick up my kids, where those are they located, and that pickups and drop-offs sometimes are different. How we do those. I never knew that. I had to learn that the hard way. Wouldn't it be nice that periodically you guys do that together? And if you don't, that you teach each other about those things, not when you need it, but even before. You are cross-training each other to be partners in the truest sense of the word. And what happens, how do we deal with this when your partner is taken away? And how will you manage these tasks? And most importantly, how do you manage the emotions that come with that separation for an extended period of time? It's not just the physical lack of your partner being there, but all those things, as we've been talking about, that you're used to them doing in your home. But the more important one, I believe, is the emotional issues that come with that. Because that loneliness The loneliness of not having your partner going to bed with you at night. And how do we stay connected? How do we emotionally stay connected to our partners in a way that doesn't have us feeling so alone and feeling like our world is falling apart? And for so many of us, we depend on our partner for our emotional well-being, both from a feedback standpoint from them, and sometimes it's just about turning over and seeing our partners there and saying our world is good because we're sharing our life, and how we interpret it with being able to, in the middle of the night, wake up, look over your partner, smile knowing that you have this relationship which is so wonderful and they're there for you. And when you wake up and they're not there, and that the time zone difference is big, so you can't just pick up the phone and call because they may be either at work in a meeting or they may be sleeping and you don't want to wake them up. How do we cope with those emotions? That's really the bigger challenge here, I think. And so often what we don't do is talk about this. And as a couple, the two of you need to have these conversations. When you have a job in which travel may be part of the picture, you have to talk about not only the task, but the emotional consequences to it. And not all of us feel suited for that. And sometimes if we find ourselves not being suited, how do we have those dialogues? How do we talk about the impact of a job knowing that that job is our primary source of income and that it may not feel emotionally that we can handle it? And what I want to suggest to every single couple out there that is going through this experience and understands what we're talking about here is that you can handle this. This is not a black and white issue. Even if you feel like you're someone that needs my partner there all the time because my life doesn't feel good, and yet they have to travel on a frequent basis. And I have some couples who both people travel a lot, which makes it a whole lot easier. But the more difficult ones are couples who have one partner that travels and one stays home. Now, I do have some couples that I've worked with where the issue is they rotate who the traveling partner is, and that actually works better because there's a deeper understanding of the difficulties that come with that. But so often, and what I have found more recently, the dilemma becomes when someone loses a job and now the new job that they take is one in which they have to travel, and it's not what the two of them bargained for. But yet, it's a good job. It's a job that the person likes. It's actually a job that they find great pleasure from. And how do we make this work when it's not the emotional needs aren't meeting my partners because they need someone more present? And yet, everyone wants each other to be happy. And how do we cope with that? Because both of you are important to each other, and both of you want each other to feel good about both your work life and your home life. So what I'm going to do is talk more specifically now on how do you cope with these particular issues, and what can you do to stay emotionally connected, and the advantages that we now have that have to do with technology and FaceTime and Skype and all different kinds of uses of the computer, that we can really stay close even when we're physically apart. It's true. You don't have to give up on your relationship or settle for feeling lost or as if something is missing. You just need to know how to connect with your partner in a way that allows the two of you to feel loved and appreciated. But the problem is that many couples don't have the tools They need to navigate the ups and downs of a relationship without causing relationship injuries to one another. Yet they wonder what happened to the friendship that you used to share. How did it get from where it was in the beginning of the relationship to where you are now, feeling alone, disappointed, and hurt? And yet, you just can't seem to move forward to be happy again. Thankfully, this problem can be fixed, and that's where the 2 days and 7 conversation Hold Me Tight workshop comes in. Just 2 days, you will understand what you and your partner need to have a relationship where both of you are on the same page, working together to have that close relationship you only once dreamed of. Check it out at www.thecouplesexperts.com. Your relationship deserves the two of you feeling that closeness you once had. Let's get back to what we were talking about, which how do we cope with those emotional issues? And the feeling of being lonely is really hard. So what we want to do is try to get a regular schedule of connection in different media formats, such as email, sending each other at least one email a day and making a commitment that you're going to do that, particularly if you're in a situation where there's a big time difference. Email could be a wonderful way to really stay close. And what it allows both of you to do is to feel like, wow, I know when I wake up in the morning, I get to read an email from my partner that they took the time and energy to put together. And in that email, they're going to tell me about their day. They're not going to just have it be facts, though. These emails need to be like a telephone conversation or a person-to-person dialogue that you and your partner sometimes have. You should include things like talking about how you've been feeling, talking about what you did that day, not just the facts, but the feelings that went along with that. When you were at your meeting, if you were bored out of your mind, what was the things that you thought about? What are some of the things that you got distracted with? And here's an important one, guys and ladies. Was there time during that day that you thought about your partner and you thought about how much you missed them? And can you, in writing, put down that experience and the sadness and the hope and the joys and the plans that in your brain, because this happens to me all the time, I'm sitting in a conference and I start thinking about times that my wife and I and things we can do, both like a vacation or for a weekend or a movie I might want to see. Can we really make that email not just an email? And that also goes true with text. Text is a little bit more powerful, I think, but so many of us are in meetings that we can't even text, because so many times that would be not only unproductive, but that would be inappropriate. But when you can, sending a text, and now that we have our phones with us all the time, and most people who travel have a smartphone because that's the kind of work that we do, you can send a video text rather quickly, going from meeting to meeting, a quick Snapchat or a quick video that says, thinking about you, running to my meeting, love you, bye. That's it. It's not that difficult. And I think so many people make it bigger than it is, but you don't know the power of that. And not only the power from the person who's at the meeting, but if you're running to these conferences and this, that, and sometimes it can feel so overwhelming to get a quick video of your wife and the children playing, although there may be a sad element to that because you feel sad that you're missing out on those experiences. But it could also bring you such joy in between your conference. And that brings to mind one other aspect. I feel so often that what I hear, at least in my office more often than not, what I hear is people talking about the fact that the person who's traveling has it easy. And I hear about the loss from the partner at home, but there isn't as much of an understanding that the partner who's leaving has their own agenda with that, meaning that being away, particularly when the children are younger, is really hard. Imagine yourself having a very young child and you get a phone call from your wife that said, "Oh my God, she walked." That your child took the first step. Now, this isn't just from traveling. This is understanding each other's perspective, and you weren't there for it. That you missed out because of a meeting. That you had to get on a plane and travel to some exotic place, which is fun to go to an exotic place, but maybe not so much fun if you're traveling all the time, because then it's just one hotel room after another. Don't forget about that one. And you miss out on life's most precious moments. What's that like? And what's it like for your partner sitting at home wishing they could have shared that with you? Both of you have a perspective on these missed opportunities, missed experiences that when you're away from your partner, you lose out on. So it's not just about the tasks. It's about the life that we're sharing and being part of each other's world as much as you can. And one of the messages throughout all of this that I hope you're hearing is that you need to make every moment together count. Not only if you travel, every single day of your life together, every moment should be a memory to remember. And that if you don't focus on the things that are working, the good things, the opportunity, the fact that the two of you have a healthy life and are living together and care about one another, and that the world is really okay. If that doesn't become more of the conversations that you have, and it more is about the negative and what's missing, that you're a half-empty person, try to become a half-full. Even if you have to work at that. And that's the other piece of this that I think we have to talk about. Sometimes the partner that travel is that positive perspective. How do we keep that in it? Put those things in the emails too. Encourage one another. Share the wonders of your world together and what is working and what you appreciate about each other every single day of your life together. And don't let your traveling stop that from happening. The nice part about technology, and I just mentioned the video a couple minutes ago, is FaceTime phone calls are critical, particularly if you're in a relationship that has struggled a little bit with trust. And sometimes that becomes a major problem. And I don't want to get into the whole concept of infidelity and those types of things in this podcast, because we've had other podcasts about that issue. But the most important thing that helps couples is you got to see each other. And FaceTime allows you to have phone calls and not just on the phone and wondering, is your partner really watching or doing something else? Or are they present? And when I do my appointments, and I do some appointments with Skype, for example, I love those appointments because a telephone session doesn't give me the nonverbals. And that's going to be true for you too. And there's a super sensitivity that comes with a phone call because not that different from a text. Sometimes a tone can be interpreted incorrectly. And if you can see someone when you're talking with them, you see their face, you see their body language, you see all of that, that helps you really begin to connect on a multi-level with that partner that's away. And that you want to be able to see in their eyes that they miss you. And if you don't see that, you want to be able to know that too, because then that's a whole other conversation. And one of the things, though, I do caution you is what I don't recommend doing, unless you're away for a very extended period of time. Don't try to work out your relationship issues long distance. And sometimes the problem becomes because sometimes maybe there was a conflict when you left. And my advice would be, tell each other, we have this thing that we still need to work about, but we're going to put it aside till I get back. And now I want to just enjoy our connection, the love that we have for each other while I'm away, and know that we're going to deal with this other issue. So you want to stay connected by email, text, FaceTime, or phone calls. Now, how I recommend doing that are specific times that you set. This should be scheduled, like a business meeting. If you're away on business, you've got meetings in your schedule. Do the same with your partner. Make them as important, if not more important, and have those meetings be a non-cancelable meeting. If people are going out and having a drink together, you're going to have to say, I got a business meeting. I have a business call to make. But don't schedule it at a time that you think that would happen. Find the time that'll work. And most people, if you talk about it, could find an opportune time that'll work for both of you. But in addition to those kinds of scheduled times to just connect, I recommend scheduling a good morning and good night, just like you were at home. When you wake up in the morning, you'll say good morning to your partner. It might be a 30-second good morning because you may be rushing to get the kids out the door, because that sometimes happens, but let it be a good morning. Have it be every single day that you're away. No different than if you were together. You're going to say good morning to one another without fail. Maybe it's a text. Maybe it's a scheduled text even, if you have to. If you have a business meeting and it's not, because of the time difference, not possible, have it be an email if it has to be. Have it be something that is automated. Yeah, your partner's going to know it's automated. It's not the same thing. But let them know that they were important enough for you to schedule that, and they'll understand. Say good morning and say good night. The importance of this, I think, is clear, but it is a whole lot easier to cope with this separation when you're in contact with each other. Hearing your partner's voice, seeing their face, getting text messages regularly, having regular check-ins, and using the technology that we have just really allows the two of you to stay emotionally close in spite of the distance. And you want to make sure that if you're a partner is one that travels a lot, it's even more important to have these date nights when they're here, because you want to have plenty of couples time that is just the two of you. And what you don't want that time to be is a time of complaining about your job, the kids. Don't nag or guilt your partner for having the job that they have and having to move away or travel on a regular basis. You have to realize, and this is part of the dialogue, part of the emails that I want you to share with one another when you do have some distance, is letting each other know the difficulty it is without blame, without a way of saying, I don't think that you understand how hard it is, because that's the kind of feedback that we give to each other. And before you know it, it pulls people emotionally away from one another. What I want you to realize is that if you're in a partnership, if you're in a marriage, and this is part of the marriage, you both are impacted. And that it's just as hard on each of you as it is on the other. And that it's a choice that the two of you are making. Sometimes it's a choice where you don't have a choice, but there is a sense of acceptance that has to go into this, that the two of you together have made the choice on that this is the best thing that is out there now for your family. And that both of you have to deal with the good and the bad of it. And making sure that you concentrate on connecting when you have the chance and make the quality of the time more important than the quantity. And that's, yes, there are going to be other relationships, other marriages that you'll know where people spend a whole lot more time together, perhaps. But is the quality of the time that they spend as good as the two of yours? And if it is, or if it's not, if the quality of your time isn't as good, you need to work on that. Those are the couples that typically present themselves in my office, are couples who have this relationship that has the travel embedded in it, and it's not working so well. And I do think that for a lot of couples, that is going to take some professional help to help you do that. Make sure you concentrate on the connecting. The daily chores don't change when your partner's away. And the nuts and bolts project and the to-do lists are always going to be there. And when your partner is gone, some of those are just going to have to be put to the side. When you're by yourself and the kids have a bunch of different activities, such as sports practices and those types of things, one of the ways, whether you're the man in the relationship or the woman in the relationship, is talk to the moms about help with carpooling, or take kids to sports and band practice and share those. If you have an older child that drives, even though it may not be the best situation, sometimes if you're comfortable with the driving aspect, have an older child drive the younger child to their sports activities. And yes, they may have to sacrifice some of their friends temporarily, but that's part of being in a family. And with the honey-do list, which I talked about putting off to the side, sometimes you do that, but maybe it's good to have some of the older kids do some of those and have them learn how to do it. And before your partner travels, have them be taught how to do that, cross-training them as well. The important thing here is that you're in this relationship together, and that if there is the financial resources, paying someone to do some of these things is okay as well. So when we talk about the cooking, for example, yes, you may be able to cook some eggs in a basic dinner, but maybe if someone's gone for a while, you don't want to just always do that. So you can enlist some of these services, and now there are these services such as Blue Apron, and Safeway, I think, grocery stores, at least out here, are starting one in which there's these pre-cooked meals. But you want to keep the meals healthy and not just do pizza and wings, guys. So you want to really talk about all of these things early so that the two of you have really planned for how to handle these distances. And so often, and the bigger problem is the dialogue never happens until it's after the fact, or it's happening at the time and there's hurt feelings as a result of it. So be a team in the truest sense of the word, looking at your lives, looking at the situations, and working as a couple and acknowledging the difficulty. Sometimes just being present with that acknowledgement will bring this to really make this not as difficult to contend with on a regular basis. So thank you for joining me again this week on the Couples Expert podcast. And love each other. That is the most important thing. be in this relationship, go all in, even when there are challenges, facing the facts that no challenge is too great if you're in it together. I wanted to let all of you know just how much I appreciate you for taking time out of your busy schedules to listen to the Couples Expert podcast, and let you know that I'm going to be taking a break from recordings in the month of August. My plan is for my wife and I to take a well-needed vacation, and we're going to be going on a cruise. I'm going to be living out what I teach, which is that you and your partner should take a vacation every single year. It's our annual vacation that we take, and we're going on a cruise to England and Oslo and Bruges, and I'm very excited about it. And I'm going to be tuning out, not bringing my phone or computer or iPad or anything that might distract my wife and I from just really enjoying each other's company and having us have a vacation of a lifetime. But what I've asked my staff to do is to replay some of the more popular episodes. And I'm going to be returning with new episodes in September. So that'll be our new season, I guess. And I hope you all have a wonderful month of August. And I look forward to bringing all of you more exciting guests and information on having that most important, close, connected, emotionally secure relationship. Take care, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye now.
Thank you for listening. This episode has ended, but your journey continues. Head over to www.thecouplesexperts.com to access all the links and resources mentioned in this episode, as well as bonus content exclusive to podcast listeners. Enjoyed this episode? Why not hit subscribe now and never miss an episode?